Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coast Files, your podcast for ocean mysteries and true crime. I'm Chantel.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Megan.
How is everyone doing today?
Guys, I use my NPR voice.
I
I've
noticed,
actually,
and it sounds beautiful.
It's
I've never
sexy.
listened to NPR. I know it stands for something public radio, but that's all that I know.
I'm not actually sure I know what NPR is. I just know the reference.
National Public Radio?
I think so.
Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with that.
I don't know much
That's what
about
it
them
is.
either. I think they have a wine club though, because
Oh,
someone
Oh,
I'm
was telling
down.
me about it once, and I drank the wine, and I guess NPR recommended it, and it was really good.
okay.
So
Okay,
I
so
will.
now I'm just going to blindly believe whatever they say going
All right.
Yeah,
forward.
that's exactly how it
NPR
works.
is life. That's
Will you
all I need
sponsor
to
us,
know.
NPR?
Is that how it works, or do we have to sponsor you? Is this like PBS?
It's a great question. I have no idea. Like I
Yeah,
said,
we
I know
should
nothing about
ponder
anything.
And
this a
this
lot
is our
today.
podcast where we talk
Mhm.
about what
We talk
NPR
about
stands for
NPR
and what they
and
do.
PBS and yeah, okay. As much as I love you guys, I'm going to dive into this because today is a little bit long. I'm going to
And
do
I'm
my
also
best.
so excited to hear this
Okay,
case today.
good,
So
good.
It's a
Yes,
real
Lindsay
weird
has been
one.
waiting to watch the documentaries until I covered this, so we're covering it today. So for
finally,
everybody listening, we are talking about the submarine murder in Copenhagen, Denmark. Just
You
want
did
to
it. Good.
think I did it. I just want to throw it out there. This case has major trigger warnings, and like whatever you can imagine as being a trigger, it's in here. So
It's all bad.
it's all in there. And I tried my best to make this like comprehensive, not too long case, but there is so much to just dig into that I just went down a bunch of rabbit holes. So hopefully this will be good. There's also a lot of Danish and Swedish names that I tried to look up the pronunciation of, and my Danish background did nothing to help me with this.
I know. I was going to say you're half Danish. You should just
Like,
be born knowing
no,
this.
no. Okay, so we're gonna start. You guys have that first photo open, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit
Yes.
about Kim Wall. She was born on March 23rd in 1987 in Trelleborg, Sweden, which is very actually close to Denmark. It's kind of like a hop, skip, and a jump away from it. And she was a brilliant journalist who had it in her blood since birth. She was born to two journalists, Joachim and Ingrid Wall. He was more of a photographer, but they met during that. They've done a lot of work together as a couple. Sadly, something that they also did together was write a book, and it was the biography of their daughter's life called A Silenced Voice.
Oh my god. Can I just say too that she looks like stunning?
Oh,
She
I
looks kind of
know.
like she looks kind of like your mom a little bit too.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah, like
But
the
she just
redheaded
looks
version, maybe.
yeah,
Mhm.
and just
Mom
with
did
something
have
about like
red hair for a while, so
And I think your mom
you're
has blue eyes, but if her eye, yeah, like change the eye
yeah,
color
they
and the
look
hair.
I could
but
see
just
it.
something about her and she just looks like not only is she very beautiful, but she looks like just smart. You know how
Oh,
people like
wait, I'm
look
about to tell
smart?
you that.
Okay. Well,
Go.
she looks it.
So she went to school in Sweden at a university called Lunds University. That's where she started studying journalism. Then in 2011, she graduated from the London School of Economics and Poli-Sci after studying international relations. She also studied at Beijing University, and she got a degree in international affairs from Columbia University in New York.
What a nerd.
So she's well read, to say
Oh
the
my
least.
god, what a smart person.
Yeah. She was mainly a freelance journalist. She wanted to kind of incorporate her love of travel with journalism and activism and all of that. So, but she was also just kind of like fascinated with people and people that were really like
Human interest stories
human
kind of thing.
interest, but also like if somebody was really passionate about something, like she wanted to tell their story as well. So she would travel, she would sell these stories to different places. So she wrote for The Guardian, New York Times, Vice, Foreign Policy China. Like she wrote for a lot of different
Stop making me love her.
I know. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of her titles just so you can kind of get the feeling of what she would talk about. She had one called The Madrasa in the Forest, which was a multimedia project published in Vice in 2016. It documented the experiences of young women attending madrasas, which are primarily founded by women, and they played an important role in different places in increasing education standards around the
Oh, that's
countries.
phenomenal.
That
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. She had another one called Cuba, Forbidden Stories from Inside. This was a series of articles that was written for different publications. She went anywhere from the LGBTQ community in Cuba to skateboarding culture.
Ooh. Oh,
Meeting the
some are a little more light than others.
Yes. No, we
Yeah.
get into that. So she
Yeah.
also had one called Meeting the People Smugglers, which was an investigation into human trafficking and smuggling operations in Nigeria that was published for The
Oh.
Guardian in 2016. Another one called Callie's Teeth Girls, which is an article examining the practices of female genital mutilation in Uganda, and that was published in
Ugh,
Vice in 2016.
I
She
hate
had
that
another
shit.
one called It's
Yeah.
Not About Sex, It's About Identity, Why Furries Are Unique Among Fan Cultures. That was an article written for
Wow.
The Guardian in 2016
She's
as
just
well.
Okay.
she's going all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. And then she had another one called Operation Sharkbait. That was an investigation piece for The Guardian in 2017 that studied the illegal shark trade in the Galapagos Islands. So
For
she
like
had an
shark
array.
fins too. Like
Yeah.
that's the only reference that I know for sharks. Is like the
I don't
fin.
know if that's what it is in the Galapagos
Oh.
Islands, but I didn't look more into it, to be
Leave
honest.
sharks
But
alone, you
yeah,
guys.
just leave them
Yeah.
alone.
She sounds like she would be our friend, like especially you, Chantel. All
I
these
feel like-
topics, like
I feel like she'd like our podcast too.
Oh, I think so. And I feel like I would find her so intimidating that I would just feel like I'm on like a first date whenever I'm around her. And I would just start to sweat and I'd be
don't
like,
say
so
anything dumb.
yeah, right. Be
So
smart today,
I just-
Chantel.
I
Don't tell her
wouldn't
you
speak.
don't understand maps.
And also do not confuse the alphabet with the clock.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Don't
so
discuss
obviously you
any
can-
moments in history either, because
Yeah.
those
Oh my
time
God,
those
no.
time frames.
I don't understand it. So obviously you can see how Peter Madsen and this man who made submarines might have come into her life. You can
Because
cue
they're
the
interesting
ominous music
folks.
now.
Hmm.
She also had a boyfriend. His name was Ole Stobe. He was from Denmark. They met at the London School of Economics. They were supposed to be moving to Beijing later in August of 2017. So that's why she was in Copenhagen. She was visiting family. She was visiting him, tying up loose ends before they left. And they were supposed to be having like this going away party before they moved. So you can go on to the next picture there. That is Peter Madsen. You don't have to stay on it for long if you don't want to look at him. He was born January 12th, 1971, to parents Annie and Carl in Kunenborg municipality in Denmark. So he lived in a couple different places in this municipality. His mother was 36 years younger than his father. She had
No judgment.
Yes. No,
No judgment.
she was older when she met him. Like he was 60 at the time. So
Oh, that's still like
she was older.
old,
She was
though.
maybe that actually only makes her 24.
No, she's not.
No, she wasn't. She was
say,
only
like,
24.
wait a minute.
Wait, let me do that math real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. So
she,
it is weird. It is weird.
Yes.
Then I thought she was like, yeah,
she
24.
already
You're a little
had.
baby.
Was he rich? What was the deal?
I don't know why she went with him actually. So she had 3 sons from 2 other marriages before that as well. And
At
then
24?
they had
Wow.
And
Wow,
then,
things
we're
just
talking
go
about another
different.
time,
It was
1971.
the 60s.
It was
70s.
Well, I mean 60s technically when she started.
So sorry.
He ended
No
up being
judgment
very,
either.
yeah. He was abusive though, but
Okay,
only
so
to his stepsons, not to Carl. Not that anything was not to Peter. Not that anything was directly mentioned, but they got divorced because she was like, fuck this, like you're not abusing my children. And eventually Peter moves back in with his father though. They had some shared interest in rockets and rocket fuel, and like he just overall
That's
liked his father. I also
cool
saw some
stuff.
I also saw some stuff too that said that he kind of didn't speak well of his mother as well. But I couldn't find anything definitive, so I just kind of glossing over that. But he didn't seem to really like his mom.
Divorce is tough. Like, I mean, I'm a stepchild. I have a blended family, and I'm very lucky. But you really feel like an outsider, and then you feel like the one person who should protect you, your biological parent, in that situation, obviously isn't, because he, like you said, was treated really poorly by his stepfather. So that's just tough. It doesn't always
Well, no, so
end
Carl
nice.
is his father. That's the only child that they had together,
Oh my
was
God.
Peter.
Okay.
So Peter is Carl's
Oh.
son.
Well, that's even more fucked up because then you're growing
So
up watching your
he wasn't
dad
really
like,
treated the same as the stepsons was, but he was beating the stepson. So yeah, he was seeing this,
yeah,
obviously. And that's
that's
why
gonna
his mom
fuck you
left.
up.
But he goes back and he's eventually lives with his dad. But his relationship with his father was also a bit rocky. There was a time where he kind of described his father as his first authoritative figure in his life, and how he would kind of have like corporal punishment for things that he did wrong, and just would kind of say things that he wasn't like. I mean, he was also
That was
playing
probably
with
pretty
rockets.
common at that time as well.
Yes. Yeah. I think it wasn't crazy in the 70s for people to kind of be a bit more harsh on the kids than what we would accept today. So,
Well, I would say even like the average, well-to-do family would still like smack bottoms and like slap hands, and
yeah, definitely.
just,
I don't think
very,
it's
very different now.
even illegal today as long as you're not injuring your kids. I don't personally do it to my kids, but
Yeah, it's I think it is something about like it's excessive use of that type of punishment is what's like not
yeah.
allowed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just
Sorry,
like, just
coffee
don't
burp.
hit your kids. Don't hit your kids. Don't hit your pets.
The way I see it is you're the model for your children's behavior. So if you're hitting, to me, that's saying like, okay, hitting is okay, at least in some
Yeah.
situations. And I'm trying to not do that.
Yeah, I
So
think that makes sense
I've
to
never
make it
hit
so
my
that people don't turn to violence automatically as well.
right. We can
Because
talk
yeah,
about it, or, if you don't like a situation, you can always leave the situation.
yeah, yeah. Good for you. It can't be easy as well. It must be definitely
Have there
hard
been times
to.
where I'm like, ugh,
Yeah, I can
do I
imagine. There's
little
some
Well, I mean,
restraint
smack?
being used.
there's a subreddit that I follow called Kids Are Fucking Stupid. And let me just say, like, in general, kids are great. I was around my brother and sister when they were young, and like, yeah, there can be rough parts, but like kids are so much fun sometimes. But when people are like watching kids getting hurt, I'm like, I don't know. Like, why do you want to? I don't know. When people hit kids and hit animals, I'm like, just guys, aim higher, like pick up someone your own size, that whole thing.
I
Mhm.
actually don't even like the videos. If I see a video online where a parent posted their child getting hurt or something, I'm like, why are you
That's not
posting
funny.
this?
Well, you
This
guys
is
are
just
about to not like
weird.
some videos I'm going to talk about soon.
Oh,
So,
great. Great. Carry
Okay.
on. Okay.
Okay.
so back to Peter. On March 3rd, 1986, at just 15 years old, he actually launched his first rocket. It was 1 meter tall and it soared 100 meters, so 330 feet into the
Holy
sky.
crap. Okay.
Later
Okay.
on in
That's
life,
high.
that's pretty cool. It's his life is pretty cool what he did. So later on, he eventually joined a group called the Danks Amateur Rocket Club, which spells dark. It's funny. I saw one guy was like, Danish is just an accent, isn't it? I was like, um, so Madsen didn't actually complete any formal education, but he did take some courses in welding and engineering once he felt like he got enough information that he needed to be able to do what he wanted, what his interests were, submarines and spacecrafts. He left. He started to not get along with some people in the dark group. So some eventually said that saying his name would start the sprinkler system. So he decided to start his own project in 2014 called the RLM Space Lab. He used his submarine, the Nautilus, as a type of base for the space lab. But we aren't here because of spacecrafts. We're here because of a submarine. So let me give you a little bit of background on
The underwater spacecraft.
these guys. Yeah, the underwater
Honestly, though, it
exploration.
is. I always love that quote. And I think that we talked about that in our trailer, that we know more about space than the ocean. Like, that is
Yeah, well,
wild.
exactly.
scary. Yeah.
That's
But
the
he
whole
had
reason
interest
why
in both. He was like, I want to see both.
Now, if you want to get really like, the psychology of it, he just like was not a fan of Earth. He's
Yeah,
like,
he
let me
just wanted to
just,
leave.
yeah. So I
he's
don't know
not a
about like,
land dweller.
No.
or he's like, people suck. I just want to not be where you guys are.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
The opposite of Ariel.
I mean, if you once you learn a
She,
little bit more about him, maybe you will realize
I
why
was just gonna
he
say,
might have
yeah,
wanted to
the
leave.
opposite. opposite of her. Ariel was like, I cannot fucking wait to get on that land.
Yeah.
She had a whole song about it. Exactly.
and Peter's like, no, you don't.
He's reminding me, I'm gonna blank on the name of the scientist from Futurama who was like, I don't want to be on this planet anymore. He just wanted to get out.
Oh, the old guy?
Oh yeah, I forget his name. Who's a scientist at Futurama?
Oh my god, yes.
Good news, everyone.
Yeah, well, you got the accent, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I have the old man accent.
Yeah. So you can go to the third photo there.
Okay, third photo.
And I'm going to tell you a bit about his submarine adventure.
Is this his submarine?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all deckled out. Is it sponsored
Holy
or something?
just like a race car.
Well, no, he would have to get a lot of sponsors. He didn't have money. Everything that he did was sponsored.
This looks like the most legit
it looks like
submarine.
someone, but this, like, I don't know, the way they are on there, it almost looks like they were photoshopped on.
Oh my god! That, actually,
I wonder if they were. Okay, this submarine looks cool.
Third submarine. Yeah. So in 2001, him and a man named Klaus Norgard, they built their first amateur submarine, and it was called the UC-1 Freya, and that's named after a Norse goddess of fertility and love.
I thought it was fire, but I'm thinking of a different religion, maybe.
It was
I
built as
actually
kind of,
looked at this.
Oh yeah,
because I was thinking of girls' names. We put Freya on our list at one point because we're like, oh, it's so pretty.
So maybe it's different in because this is Norse mythology. Maybe it's different. It means
that was
in a different
Eric
one.
Likes. I don't remember what it means, but Eric really likes like Norse and other mythologies, like Greek and everything. So
yeah, very cool.
It's a pretty name. It's a pretty name.
It is. So it was kind of built as like the test to see what we're doing, how we're going to do this. It wasn't built to last long, but it did do 500 dives before it was decommissioned. So I don't know. To me, that sounds kind of long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
in 2005, they built the UC-2 Kraka, which was named after a Norse mythology woman known for her intelligence. And now that is in a technical museum in Denmark. So you can actually go and see that one. In 2008,
let's go. Sorry.
Enter the Nautilus. That came to life, and this one was named after the vessel in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It could hold a crew of 8 people. It measured 18 meters long and weighed 33 tons. It is the largest privately made submarine in the world. At least it was at the time. I don't think anybody else has done it since then.
Like, fuck this guy, but that's kind of.
I can only imagine the amount of money it would take to build a submarine. So,
oh my god.
Oh yeah. Big. So like he even had like NASA help him in some projects and everything. That's why he had these clubs. Everybody that worked for him, they were volunteers. People would just like.
Wait, he didn't pay anyone?
No, everybody was volunteers that worked for him. I think maybe some money would come in to like do it, but people like volunteered to do this.
Okay, so everyone's volunteering, NASA's volunteering. Okay.
Yeah.
It's making sense.
So he was obviously known as like a bit of a local celebrity because of all of this. Madsen, while he seemed to be highly revered by most, was also known to have a bit of a short fuse, though. He was known to be uncompromising, did not like to be contradicted, and would frequently have mood swings.
Narcissist?
He was very close with a journalist named Thomas Jersing, whom wrote a biography about him. Actually, I think it was in 2014, and he described Madsen as non-violent, but also he was angry with God and everyone. He just had a lot of ambitions and he wanted things done his way. And while he had the background and knowledge to be like, I know that we can build this thing, he didn't actually have the ability to build it. So that's why he would have these engineers and everything like that come and volunteer and work for him. So that where led to a lot of his frustrations because he was on everybody else's time.
He's a visionary.
I was going to say, he has it in his mind, but he just can't physically.
Exactly.
I think that's a lot of like people who start companies, though. They, when I think of even like people like Elon Musk, like he doesn't know how to build a spaceship like himself.
Yeah. But he's like, I know we can do it.
idea. Yeah. So
So this guy didn't even have like the money. People would fund it. But I mean, obviously people saw something in him as well, like with his ideas. He was a bit wild and out there, and they were like, okay, let's just go with it. In 2011, he did get married. The woman has remained anonymous. She divorced him in 2018. I think you'll see why in a little bit.
So they were together for a good long while, though.
They were, but she didn't want her name anywhere and to be associated with him. So
Totally get that.
I think I did
I
see
feel
the
like
name
we're
somewhere, but
gonna
I'm not going to say
understand
it. So
why.
yes,
Well,
you are.
that was actually like in the case that I did about the Nova Scotia murders, Wortman's partner was unnamed by the government for a long, long time.
Yes.
And then as the months go, her name did become part of the public record. So
Yeah.
there are some older articles that don't mention it, and then later on they do.
Yeah, I think you can find her name eventually, but I'm not going to say it because I
No.
don't, I think that's respectful.
No, I agree.
So
We all make mistakes.
yes, yes, you know, and like I'll talk about it a little bit. You'll see people had a hard time with this. So Q Kim Val and her reasoning for wanting to interview him. Obviously, he's a local celebrity, so she's visiting Copenhagen and she's like, why not try and find a story while I'm here? And she sells the story to Wired Magazine. Wired Magazine is like, yeah, go get this scoop. Like, I want to hear about this too.
Wired does a lot of really cool videos on YouTube, by the way. They'll have they'll do like old like CIA operatives and like interrogators, and like they do all kinds of cool crime stuff. I watch the crime stuff, obviously.
Yeah. I feel like they've come up quite a bit whenever I'm Googling something.
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
You know why? Because they do a lot. Isn't with the celebrities, and they do like the Google image or a Google search. Is that what they do? Anyway, yeah, they put out a lot of good videos.
I've seen.
I know the name.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've read something by them. So she was reaching out to him since she was in Copenhagen, but she hadn't heard back from him and was starting to kind of get to the point of thinking like, maybe I'm going to leave before I actually get to do this interview. Until August 10th, 2017, which happened to be the same night that they were having their going away party, Kim gets a reply from Peter Madsen saying, yeah, come on, let's do it. And off she goes. Ole, her boyfriend, later recounts that Kim had invited him along as well, but because they were having this party, he did almost say yes, but because he was having this party, he was kind of like, no, like I'll get things started here. You're saying you're only going to be gone for a couple hours. You come back, we continue to have the party.
I hate this.
He also stated that he recounts giving her a longer than normal goodbye kiss. Not the same type you would give your partner who's just going to the store. But obviously, Kim's been in some unsafe situations, as you saw from some of her articles that she's had. So it wasn't so much that they were worried about the person that she was going with. It's like, oh, she's going into Coke Bay and she's going to be in this man-made amateur submarine and going underwater. Like, obviously, it would be giving you a little bit of nerves if you were there. So you can go to picture number 4, and that is Kim and Peter on the Nautilus before they go down.
Photo before,
yeah. So she goes and she starts interviewing him. I think it was around 6 p.m. And then a little bit later, she texts Ole. She says, I'm still alive, BTW. I love you, but I'm going down now. He brought cookies and coffee, though. And that was the last time that Kim Val was heard from.
Oh, my God.
So 10 p.m. rolls around. And Ole starts to get a little antsy. He's like, I haven't heard from her. Like, what's going on? You know, she's underwater in this makeshift submarine. What's happening? So he goes to the station and starts to look for her. He gets on his bike and he's like going around to where the space lab is. Apparently he saw his wife too and said she was like, I didn't even know that somebody was in the submarine with him.
Which isn't that weird because it seems it was kind of a last minute thing. And
yeah. But there were, I mean,
and
I
if it was
didn't
supposed
get
to be
into
really
this
quick, he might not have bothered.
Yeah, I didn't get into this too much though, because it was a lot in the documentary that they talked about it, where apparently they were supposed to be doing a bunch of stuff the next day on the submarine, and he was like canceling all these trips that they were supposed to be making with the rocket lab, and nobody really understood why. And anyways, he was being a little weird the couple of days around this. So he goes to the station, he's looking for her, and then finally around 2 a.m., he's like, we got to call the Coast Guard. Something's wrong. She should be back by now. So go to the next picture. Q
I don't want to.
in this badass Dita
okay, so
Dryborg.
We like her.
Dryborg. Yes.
We like Dita.
We love her. She is a naval commander who was never very impressed with Peter Madsen and his so-called celebrity status, and she does not have any time for this man. So
she
when they
looks
got
like
the
she's
call
not
about this missing submarine, she's like, take any shit?
Oh, no, she takes no bullshit.
Oh, just wait until you hear how little shit she takes.
Okay, I'm ready. Go.
So she gets this call and she's like, well, obviously I know who you mean. And I've been waiting for this call. And apparently, when the Nautilus was first brought up, these drawings were brought to Commander Dita. And she was like, no way, this isn't going to work. That if you go 10 meters down, you're never going to get back up. So she's sitting there thinking like, yeah, it finally happened. He went down and he can't get back up. So like, we got to go look for the submarine. So they're out there and they're looking until 10:30 a.m. on August 11th when they get the radio signal that Peter Madsen and his submarine are spotted in Coke Bay, just near Drogden Lighthouse. So they get the call and Dita's like, all right, I guess we can stop looking. All good. And then they get a call that says, it's sinking. He's jumping ship. And Dita's like, that doesn't just happen. That's weird. Submarines just don't all of a sudden sink. And when she's looking at the footage of it happening, it's not sinking like as if something's wrong. It looks like it's diving. And it's also weird that he didn't close the hatch. She's like, he had time to save this. Nothing here is adding up to her. So he gets picked up by a nearby boat and he's brought back to shore. And he is asked repeatedly if he's okay. He's like, I'm fine. Everyone on board is safe. Technically not a lie. He never actually makes any mention of Kim until directly probed about her. And
because no one really knew, right? He kind of like just went on his own little, it was all very last minute.
Half the people didn't even know who the journalist was, just that he was on board with the journalist.
So how many people knew that she was on board? Just her partner?
I don't know exactly how many, but definitely her family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seems like a couple of people. I think in the interview, there was like a couple of people that worked with him that knew that he had someone on with him. So he's like, oh yeah, no, I dropped her off last night at shore. And then I started doing some more stuff on the submarine. I was tinkering with some things and like I fucked up and it sunk due to a faulty valve. Oh. And Thomas, the one that did his biography that I mentioned earlier, he said that Madsen is normally a poet with words. Like normally he would have, if this actually happened, he would have some like soliloquy to write about the loss of this gorgeous Nautilus and how it sunk and all of this. And so he's like, it's kind of weird how he's talking about it. And Dita still is not buying this shit. She's like, no way, he sunk it on purpose. But no one's really listening to her. She's saying, we got to call the police. We got to get the police involved. And nobody's listening. And she's like, well, fuck you. I'll go then. So she goes to the police. She presents her evidence and Madsen is brought into custody. Yeah. During this time, they're also trying to ping Kim's phone because, well, she got dropped off. So where is she? Why can't we find her? Why does she not contact anybody? So they can't find it anywhere. And he's brought in. And that's when they're like, so P.S., there is a bar where you say that you dropped Kim off that has CCTV footage of the area. And you never did that. And so he changes his story. And he goes, there was an accident and I panicked. I accidentally dropped.
I hate that. I hate that so much. I mean, as you guys know, I consume a lot of true crime. And that whole thing like, oh, we were just playing and they hit their head and I panicked, so I cut up the body. It's like, that is not how a normal
This is literally what he says.
No. Oh my
this is
God.
Literally what he says.
He goes,
I accidentally hit her on the head with the latch, the door, which weighs like a couple 100 pounds. She died. There was a huge pool of blood. And I cut up the body to help me be able to bury her at sea because I wouldn't be able to pull the whole body through the hatch.
That is not how a normal human brain works. People commit murder or kill people all the time, truly by accident. And also
well, clearly this man's playing with a full deck of cards.
Okay, but you went down there with cookies and coffee. When was the machete brought down?
We get to it.
Okay. I was just going to say, because I mean, if I'm going to kill someone, is it like, let me make sure that they're well fed? Do they like chocolate biscuits? Do they want vanilla?
Yeah, you went down there with like a butter knife. Like, what's going on? All right. I know
I wonder if it was even planned. It doesn't sound. Anyways, Chantel, please go ahead. I'm so into this. Okay. No, don't. I don't like your face. Keep talking.
I'm going to Tina it now. So police are like, fuck, we need to find this sub. We need to bring this back up. They still aren't charging him with anything, though, except for possibly dismembering a corpse. You got to remember, the murder rate in Denmark is so low that nobody jumps to murder. 50 a year, actually, is the average.
Oh, my God, 50 a year.
And that's like including accidental murders. So in 2017, the murder rate in Denmark was actually only 1.2%. For contrast, in the States that same year is 5.24%. So
well, and the States is much bigger too.
So. Well, no, that's the percentage is based off of per 1,000. Yeah, it's per capita. So we're talking.
Does Denmark have guns like the States does?
That I don't recall, but I don't think there's very many.
Like a lot of
I'm willing to bet that a lot of murders happen here because guns are so accessible and
for sure,
easier.
Yeah,
guys, we're not really
chopping someone up in a submarine.
But we will definitely say
the
that.
amount of effort, gun, chopping up in a submarine.
I think the people that aren't going to want to listen to us say that aren't the people we want listening to this podcast. So that's okay.
Hot take. We don't love guns.
Yeah.
And we're all from Canada.
Yeah, that also helps. So needless to say that the cops are like, something's fishy here. Like, that's weird that you would do that, but they're not going to premeditated murder. They're like, it must have been an accident. So they go searching and they find the sub. At first they send this like GoPro down, and the GoPro looks inside the windows, looks inside of it. They don't see a body. So they're like, okay, we got to pull this up, see what happened. And Dita is like, okay, listen to me very carefully. We are not losing this evidence. Bring this up exactly how I tell you to bring this up. She's like,
I would.
It's under pressure. Like, you are not going to lose our evidence. So they listen to her and they get it up. It comes up and Dita's like, I'm going in. She gets on her gear and she goes in there and she starts searching around the sub. She can smell the blood.
Wait, hold on. Can I say, so when the sub sunk, whatever, at that point, was the hatch open and did it fill with water?
Yes, which is why she was like, we need to do this properly.
But she can still smell? Like,
yeah. She's like,
wow.
It still smelled like blood down there. Her pants were getting like a weird color. And she's like, oh, I know what blood smells like. Because she holds up her hand and she's missing 2 fingers.
I am obsessed with this woman. Oh my God.
Wow. She's like, I know what blood smells like when it leaves a body at high pressure.
The submarine is completely filled with water right now.
Well, they emptied some of the water out so that they could go in and look around. And also, they find Kim's jacket.
Oh.
And like, if you're dropped at shore at nighttime, I think you're going to want your jacket. Maybe that's just me.
Yes.
But,
he's already said that he lied about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this point, he already.
And also, this faulty valve been tampered with. So we know you sunk it on purpose and you were sinking it to try and get rid of some evidence. So flash forward to the morning of August 21st, 2017. This is now 11 days that Kim's been missing. Police investigator Jens Muller Jensen announces a torso of a woman has been discovered by a cyclist, and that it contains 14 stab wounds. And it has some metal pipes affixed to it to weigh it down.
Try to weigh it down. Oh, wow.
And unshockingly, the DNA identified this as Kim Val.
Oh, my God. That's so heartbreaking.
So now the police have something to charge him with.
Imagine how scary.
Imagine being the parents getting that call.
I was just going to say, well, it's bad enough that your, girlfriend / fiance is missing. And to find out that they've been murdered, who knows what would have happened. Maybe there was like some kind of like sexual advance, whatever. But then to have their body just desecrated and then you're only finding pieces, like that's just so disturbing.
Yeah. And her parents have been highly involved in like the search for her and all of this. So like it's sad. So they have confirmation now that he actually did dismember a person and that they can at least try and charge him with desecration of a corpse. So September 5th, 2017, there was a preliminary hearing. It was the first one. It took 3 hours, and he stated that he panicked after the accidental bump on the head, and he laid next to the body for 2 hours before deciding to bury her at sea.
Whoa, okay.
That is not your call, dude.
But also, why are you lying? You're lying next to her for what purpose?
Guys, he's
hypothetically, even if it was an accident, which I'm not buying, you don't get to decide what happens with her body.
No.
Well, he was hoping though that he could. Okay, so she died by accident, which we know was his story. She died by accident. Very few people know that she's on the sub with me. If I say I dropped her off, then it's kind of like then her situation leaves my situation, and then I can just go on living my life. And now she's a missing person, but I didn't have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if he killed her by accident, which again didn't happen, then brings her back up and then says this happened while she was down with me, well, then he thinks, well, then I'm going to get in trouble, yada yada. So he thought no body, no crime, essentially.
Yes, exactly. That's what he thought. And he's like, they're never going to find her.
This
And
is
if they
not
do, there's going to be no
suspicious at all.
evidence. There's going to be no evidence. The sub is gone. The body's gone. All of it. Like my DNA will be gone. Any DNA will be gone.
Dita was like, not today, motherfucker.
Yeah. So Dita actually has a lot to do with this case and the reasoning why it went as far as it did. I don't really mention her a lot anymore, but she did. Anyways, I'll tell you in a minute.
She's always behind the scenes.
Yeah, she
making
was.
Things work.
Anytime that things changed in the case, the police went to her to ask her, like, "Hey, so this happened. Do we believe this?
Dita,
are we doing our job right,
Dita, can you have a quick phone call with me?
Dita, can you be my mom?
So
adopt me."
So during this court, he said that he stabbed the body to release gases so the body would sink. So the court, once again, remember, no real murders happen in Denmark a lot. So they're like, you know what? He has all this detail. He has all these reasonings. Like, it must have been an accident. And it must be true for why he did this. So they have nothing else. You need an actual cause of death to convict him on something else. So they keep him in holding still until the trial. He's not getting out until there's an official trial. So he's still in holding. And the police are still like, we need to find more, though. We need to find the head is what we need to do.
He's done enough that he's not going to like get out of jail per se.
No. So they're like, we need to find more. They search for ages. There's been like something like 3,500 hours worth of dives that have happened. Whoa. Yeah, like 50 divers going in almost daily to try and search for this. Enter Torben Vong, an oceanographer and underwater current specialist. It is now October 6th, 2017, and they've decided to bring this guy in because they're like, we need some help.
No,
yes.
Sad.
And
at that point too, I can't imagine like with composition, like decomposition and
being saltwater,
marine life getting to it.
Yeah. So they bring him in and he's like, listen, there's good reason why you guys are having trouble finding this. If you take the sea and put it down to a 5-meter squared room, it's as if you can only see 1 millimeter in front of you. Like you're literally looking for a needle in a haystack. But he's like,
is so scary.
I got this shit. He's like, I study currents. I study the oceans. I can help you. The next fucking day that they bring him on, so October 7th, he's like, look here. They find her head, her legs, her clothing, more metal, a saw, a knife, and a screwdriver.
My God. Wow. Also, bless this guy.
And
I also love this man.
Between November 22nd and 29th, they find her arms. So these were all wrapped in bags. They were all weighed down with metal to get them to sink, like obviously deliberately sinking them. Mm-hmm. Oh, and guess what? Her head has no sign of trauma.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Well, Madsen's like, oh, wait.
That means
did I say that I hit her on the head? What I actually meant was that toxic fumes leaked into the sub while I was on top and she was inside and she died. And the police are like, sure, dude.
They're like, do you want to try again? Like,
so they perform an autopsy on the torso. And guess what? No signs of toxic inhalation in her lungs. Never would have guessed that one.
What's his next story? What had happened was actually.
So he just stops. Yeah. He just stopped saying anything. But do you know what they did find on all of these pieces now that they have all the pieces to the puzzle? They found that she had been bound. They found signs of asphyxiation, and they found signs of either being strangled or stabbed in the throat.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if you guys remember literally anything from, true crime things that you've listened to, which I'm sure that you have, but like you don't get signs of being bound if you're already dead. You don't bruise when you're dead.
Because your blood.
You're not going to tie up a dead person.
Well, that too. So in between this time that they were finding all these pieces, they had also confiscated his computers from his workshop, and they were finding some pretty interesting things in there. They can't locate his phone, though. Both phones are missing. Both Kim and his phones are missing. His computer contains some snuff videos of women being tortured and decapitated.
No way.
They were presumed to be real films, not filmed by him, but they think they're real.
I don't remember hearing this.
He had also recently searched how to clear photos from iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. So
why not search how to get away with murder? Like
recently,
I actually love when
in,
people get. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
I was just gonna say, was this before he even met Kim? He was searching this, or this was
no, this was like a couple of days before.
So he maybe had a plan, or he's taking photos of something creepy. At least,
yeah.
I don't like this.
His top 3 porn searches were throat, girl, and pain.
Ew, guy, go get some therapy.
Oh, and one more thing. The night before, he had watched a video of a woman being tortured and slowly decapitated with a knife. And several hours before meeting with Kim, he searched beheaded girl agony.
Oh my God. So, okay. So Kim just like fell into his lap.
Yeah, he just fucked up with his fantasies.
Yeah.
So by January 2nd or January 12th, 2018, they stopped searching for the phones. They are a lost cause, in the sea.
I feel like they
there's
have
really
enough
no hope for
like
recovery. Yeah. I mean, it would give them more, but yeah. More things start coming to light about Madsen and his life as well that he hid from those around him. Madsen insisted that he was in an open relationship with his wife at the time, and he used to frequent BDSM parties and partake in asphyxiation sex. Nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with partaking in those things.
If there's lots of consent and the wife is like, you do you.
What did send shivers down my spine was that he was kicked out of the BDSM
That's
community.
Never a good sign.
Because even though he didn't partake, the man that was kind of like the head of the community said that he used to watch, but it wasn't like he was taking pleasure in it. To me, it sounded like he was like taking notes in the background.
Oh, so it was less about the sex and more about the murder. Although I guess they're normally connected.
I don't know. It's like such a fine line, I think, with that. But like obviously enough people were feeling uncomfortable in this community that they're like, we can't have him here anymore.
Just imagine being the one that gets kicked out of like the fringe society. Like that's not good.
Like,
well, maybe that was it was what he was almost doing to try to like deal with this urge is like, oh, I'll go to BDSM parties. Maybe that will be good enough. But like, no, I actually need to decapitate people.
Yeah.
I need to take it
that's just
way
so
further.
Upsetting.
So Madsen was also told later, well, it was said later that he was kind of a bit of a Nazi enthusiast as well. He really revered their technology. He would often make jokes about performing torture to those that annoyed him in the fashions that Nazis were known to have done. He made mention at one point to putting battery acid into people's veins.
My God, man.
Yeah. So obviously all this stuff's coming out and they're like, this really isn't painting the best picture of who he is. I mean, I'm sure we've all made a joke at one point or another that like maybe if we get done for murder, people are going to be like, there were signs. But like, like some of the stuff that he was saying and obviously he was looking at was pretty bad. So at this point, there has been 3 preliminary trials. In Denmark, they do like the preliminary trials and then they're like, okay, yes, we take this to court. So we're going to start getting into the official trial now. It started on March 8th, 2018, in front of a judge and 2 jurors. They don't have a big like jury or whatever like they do in the States. It's just a judge and 2 jurors, and they see everything and they decide what is going to happen. During the trial, he was still adamant that it was an accident, and he seemed to not fully understand why it was so bad that he dismembered somebody who was already dead. He also stated, what do you do with a big problem? You cut it into little pieces.
Okay, so like that's actually good advice when it's not pertaining to an actual human being.
Yeah. So he stated that he cut her up with what was around in the submarine. But interestingly enough, and you can see this into the Deep documentary on Netflix, he had been spotted bringing a wood saw onto the Nautilus earlier that day. And it wasn't until later that people close to him were kind of like, why would you need a wood saw on a metal submarine? So also looking a bit more premeditated here. Again, he states that he stabbed Kim so many times to release the gases, but it was brought up that she was stabbed mainly in the groin and that these stab wounds were not only outside but also inside of the vagina.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm clenching so hard.
Was she alive when these were happening?
I hope she was not.
Know, but
there's nothing definitive that they can say about that, but I'll mention that very soon. He stated that he lay down beside her for 2 hours contemplating taking his own life before he decided to dismember her.
I wish he would have.
Yes. When he asked why he changed his story so many times, he said he wanted to spare Kim's parents from the gruesome reality of what happened to their child.
Bullshit.
He brought up that he was thinking about the movie Seven as he was dismembering her.
Okay, actually, great movie, but
I know. Way to ruin it for me.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Kevin Spacey did that first.
Yeah, fair. Overall, he just seemed to really have no remorse over it.
No, because clearly
if it was an accident, you would expect
he just
them.
said, "Wow, well." If his first story was actually what had happened, because you're on a sub, it's kind of handmade. It's her first time. She could have easily bumped her head in a way, or maybe when they were under the water and the pressure. I don't know.
Accidents can happen. They can, but you would probably feel remorseful or something. I mean, I know that we always say you don't know how you're going to react in a situation. Like when like the husband is automatically seen as the person and he's like, I just didn't know how to react. So obviously we don't know, but I feel like if I accidentally killed somebody, I would feel really fucking guilty about it if I was a normal human being.
Depending on who it was.
Yeah. Fair
but
point.
Yeah. The more that you're getting into details, it sounded like it didn't matter who it was per se, but he probably thought about murdering someone for a long time.
So it was probably just the opportunity presented itself.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was like, bingo.
So it was noted that during the proceedings, he often would speak about himself in a third person, maybe almost disassociating from the person that did the actual crime. And sometimes the court had a hard time following his story because he would not only refer to Kim as she and her, but he would also refer to the Nautilus as she and her. So sometimes they didn't know who he was referring to at which times. When asked about the snuff films,
I would stop him and be like, no, say the names.
I know. I think sometimes they did have to ask for clarification from him. When asked about the snuff films, he said he watched them because they helped him empathize with women more.
That's not, no,
sure,
that's not.
Yeah. He would often stare down and try to intimidate people in the court. And some people that spoke out against him, they had to do so behind closed doors because of not only kind of like what they went through, but also because they were, they didn't want to be stared down in that way and feel intimidated. People that worked for him suffered a lot emotionally. They had a hard time reconciling this dichotomy between the person that they knew and the person that he obviously actually was.
Well, and obviously he's a very, very smart man.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure some of these people that were volunteering were just like, I just want to be near you because you're so brilliant. And then kind of like a hero thing.
Somebody can be moody. It doesn't mean that they're a killer. People can have kind of a bad temper at times when they're frustrated, but you still don't automatically think, yeah, they're a killer. So it's, they had a hard time with this. One woman, she actually eventually went up and decided to give some evidence into the trial, which I think really helped with the conviction at the end. Her name was Sarah. In the Into the Deep, her face is AI generated because she didn't want her face on it.
Okay.
But these are texts that happened a couple of days before that she decided to put in.
Okay.
So she says, Sarah, can't you send me some little death threats? Then maybe I can get this work done faster. I'm working so slowly. Madsen, haha. You must be bound in the Nautilus. I bind you to pierce you with a skewer. Then the pocket knife comes forward. I'm looking at your throat. Where is the pulse? I have a murder plan ready, which is a great pleasure. We're going to make a movie with you. You have no choice.
So that's not a threat. That's like, so Tuesday when I picked you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So she said that at the time she took it in jest, right? She was like, this was something that I asked for.
I would never take that in jest. There's way too many
There's
details. That's so creepy.
She took it as him playing around. She didn't really know what to do. It wasn't until later that she was kind of like, fuck. Like, I think, and he was planning on taking her out in the Nautilus the next day.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
So she has a lot of kind of like survivor's guilt, I think, almost, because she just feels so bad. She's like, I'm having panic attacks daily. And she also
terrible.
Kim was like a friend of hers as well.
No way.
So she feels like, you can just tell in it, like she carries a lot of guilt. I also kind of got this feeling like maybe she kind of was in love with Peter. I don't know. I'm putting my feelings onto it of watching the film.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have no idea who this woman is, but if you're working with someone like that, there could have been this whole like, I'm so impressed by you, that kind of like famous person, like, oh,
Yeah, he's so smart. Look at these things that
yeah.
he's doing. Like,
Oh, he's gonna give me special attention. I think we've all
yeah,
been there.
yeah,
That explains why she might have let those comments slide a bit and
yes,
given the benefit of the
exactly.
Yeah.
doubt, I guess, in that
Yeah.
situation.
Oh, he's just so quirky.
So another witness came forward and said that she met Madsen in the past, and he invited her on the Nautilus, like the May that same year. She didn't respond the first time, and then again on August 8th, 2017, he had invited her again, and she found this odd because she was like, "I didn't respond the first time. We haven't spoken at all. Why would I all of a sudden want to go on this with you again?"
Take the hint,
But
bud.
obviously, this also made it, yeah, right. Obviously, this also made it look like he was actively looking for someone to bring on board, specifically a female. I think there was another friend that was mentioned too at one point. He used to invite her and her family on all the time, and they never really had a chance to. And then all of a sudden, just before this happened, he invited specifically her and said, "There's no room for your family, though." So she was
So
like, "Nah, I'm
he was
good."
definitely trying to isolate a woman on this
Yeah,
sub.
It's also giving desperate.
yeah.
Like,
Why won't someone just let me murder them?
okay, who else can I message? Also,
Where's
he
my
has more.
Rolodex?
Okay, what decade are you from, Rolodex?
There was also blood found on Madsen's boiler.
I was like,
suit.
I
oh,
mean,
Chelsea.
like,
I'm getting them
how you're
confused.
yeah.
That suggested that Kim may have been dismembered before she died, but because, like
Oh,
you said earlier, Lindsay, the amount of time the body had spent underwater, it was really hard for the coroner to give an official cause of death. Madsen's lawyers clung to this fact. They clung to it because it's like the only thing that they have. Pictures of the body were so graphic that they were not shown to the court. They were only showed to those involved in the prosecuting the case. They did, however, show the pictures of the wrist that indicated that she was bound. That was the only thing that they would show the court. Remember, you don't bruise if you're dead.
because your blood ain't pumping.
Your blood ain't pumping. A court-ordered psychiatrist evaluated Madsen and stated that he was dangerous, a perverse polymorph, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I didn't.
Pokemon?
No. It's someone who relates or exhibits infantile sexual tendencies where the genitals and coitus are not the primary goal of erotic activity. So murder is his primary activity for erotic. What gets him off. You don't need to have sex. You don't need to be touching genitals. You don't need to be doing anything like that.
So it sounds like he did not sexually assault her.
There was no evidence to find that, even on the clothing that they found anywhere.
It's a small miracle.
But yeah.
He also stabbed her in there. So that's arguably way worse.
I'm just hoping that the whole knife to the throat suffocation thing, that she died as quickly as possible, because if she were alive,
films that he watched, I don't think that he did.
I'm telling myself that.
Slowly, like the words, no. Anyways, they also said that he has psychopathic traits and was a high risk of reoffending. On April 25th, 2018, Judge Annette Burko found Peter Madsen guilty of premeditated murder, aggravated sexual assault because of the stab wounds and where they were, and desecrating a corpse. He was sentenced to life in prison. Judge Burko.
Hold on. Now, does that really mean life? Because here it's
I'm going to get into that for a second.
Oh, cool.
Judge Burko stated on Madsen's claims that it was an accident. The explanation is not credible and is not consistent with the following decisions to dismember the body. This ruling made news because it's not common for a first-time offender, even in murder in Denmark, to get life. Normally, they'll get 12 years. Now, life still is only 21 years there.
For murder?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the court system life.
And also, I really don't get how life equates to 21 years.
20, I don't know. Anyways, he normally they would just get a lesser charge of 12 years, but because of the nature of the crime, they think that he would reoffend. They've decided he's getting full life right away. None of this 12 years bullshit. He tried to appeal it, still claiming that he didn't do it on purpose, but No one believes your ass. So he did not get
Shocking.
the appeal. His lawyer claimed that in a case like this where there is no witnesses, you need to have a trustworthy defendant, but his continuation of changing the story every time the police came up with new evidence did not bode well for him. So you dug your own grave as well.
Well, and plus the evidence on the body clearly shows the same thing.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like someone died from natural causes or an accident, and then he cut her up to hopefully not have the blame on him. Like, if you can see the amount of stab wounds and then the location of the stab wounds.
Like I said, they can't definitively say what the cause of death was and whether it happened, like whether most of the stuff happened before or after death, but it doesn't matter at this point. There is enough, what's that type of evidence called? Circumstantial, that they're like, no, dude, you did this and you meant to do this.
And you planned it.
The common theory is that he wanted to make his own snuff film, and he may have actually done so. That's why he searched how to get rid of things off your iPhone, and that's why his phone is still missing. People also have a very hard time believing this was his first murder because of how gruesome it was. Definitely still stumbly, like a first murder. But what was interesting was that I found in one source that they are looking into some other cases of women who were killed and not the murderer wasn't found. And one of them actually has a connection to Peter. So they're not, that's still new evidence just got put in like 2021 or something like that. So they're still kind of have that under wraps. But exactly.
Further.
That's what, and maybe it'll be a future case for us, a little update. So I know you guys think that I'm done, but I'm not.
We were in it for the long haul.
And I know that we have more photos, so I want to know, like...
Yeah, we're going to get to them in a minute. So in August of 2018, Madsen actually ended up in the infirmary because an 18-year-old fellow inmate stabbed him.
Good.
On August 20th, 2020...
Now he knows how it feels.
He escaped prison by holding a psychiatrist hostage with what looked like a gun and a bomb belt. He only made
bomb belt.
Like
this is getting like Joker and Harley Quinn vibes right now,
right? Oh my god, yeah. But he only made it 5 minutes out of the prison and only 500 meters from the gate before he was captured. Now, it did take him a little bit longer to get him back inside because obviously they had to have a bomb squad come in and prove that this wasn't a bomb, and it wasn't.
It's kind of like high stakes, like wrangling a dog that got off the leash.
It sounds like he doesn't think long term with these plans.
No. So,
but Lindsay, he's so smart though, and he's a man.
Yeah, and he has like a submarine.
And just let him do things.
I just kind of like hang out in my submarine, go down there with like coffee and cookies and stuff. And,
apparently when he would talk sexually to women during these BDSM parties, like try to actually be involved, he would talk about his submarine and he meant his dick.
But he doesn't even want to use his dick, apparently.
I know.
To murder.
So, can you imagine that you're like at this club and you're like really feeling it, and he pulls out like a tiny toy submarine? Like, that's not going anywhere near me.
He actually just keeps a submarine in his pants. Like a little boy one.
So
I got this one online. It's pretty good.
It's an exact replica of the one that I made. I got it 3D printed.
Fuck this guy. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So because of this little stint, however, even though it only added on an extra 21 months to his already life in prison, seems like a drop in the bucket. It does mean that he can't go up for parole in 12 years. So he has now given up the right of getting out before 21 years.
Oh, okay. But still, like 21 years, and he's not that old.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said his birth year, but he's what, like
1971.
50s?
Yeah, so he was 47 when he was 47 or 48 or something like that when he was
21 years now for him in Danish.
Yeah,
so
21 years plus another 21 months, so that's another 2 years. So now we're up to almost 23 years. So he'll be old.
But you know what? But it's not even about the age he'll be when he gets out. It's like, I mean, sometimes judges will give someone like a symbolic sentence of like 100 years just because of how terrible the crime was. And
listen, if anything else comes out with these other ones, that man's not getting out. Let's face it.
Well, they can stack the different sentences too. Yeah, another way to keep them in line.
But he probably won't get out anyway because he's just like mentally so unwell. Like they can't risk it. Because I mean, you can kill people for numerous reasons. And if it's like, at the behest of some kind of gang, or, if it's a drug thing, or, situational, I feel like there's almost more sympathy there. He definitely had kind of a weird childhood, but it's kind of like that nature versus nurture. Like his brain just ain't it, man. Like he's not safe to be out.
Well,
No.
also, if you look more into the perverse polymorph thing, apparently they think it's something that happens in childhood to you that makes you kind of do that. Yeah. So, I mean, probably more happened in childhood than what we even know. His father's dead. His father died when he was 18, but like, I don't know. Something wasn't right there.
I'm sure he saw some really terrible shit.
Yeah.
Which is like not his fault, but at some point, like, it doesn't mean that you get to hurt people. That's not how it works.
But hurt people hurt people. So
I know.
So I know you guys were really wondering about his love life while he was in prison. So let me tell you.
Oh, all I could think about.
Yeah.
While Peter was in prison, he was still playing the fields. Before he was actually criminally charged in 2018, this was in 2017, he had a relationship with a female guard.
Oh.
On December 19th, 2019, he married a woman named Jenny Kirpin, who lives in self-imposed exile with her partner, Alexi, and has 2 children with him. They have some sort of open relationship. She insists this is not a stint. And the reason why she needs to insist this is not a stint is because she is an artist who earlier that year announced a project called the Peter. This is not the Peter we knew. It's making reference to people and how they, how they had a hard time, like I said, reconciling who he actually was. She had started interviewing him while he was in prison, and they ended up getting married.
But she is married already.
No, she lives with her partner. I don't think they're married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because polygamy is probably not legal in Denmark.
Not for marriage wise.
I would imagine. I mean, it's not in most places, but
yeah. She's, made a lot of reference to how the media has painted him since all of this. Like,
they're just saying the truth and like facts.
He painted himself. Exactly. Like, they didn't
what
make
do you
him
see
do
in this
this
guy? Like, I really don't get the fascination with
me,
especially murders being getting like pen pals and stuff like that. It's just so weird.
Oh, speaking of pen pals, it doesn't end there.
Great.
He also started an online or like written relationship with a 17-year-old girl while he was in prison.
Oh,
her name is Camilla.
Oh my god,
not okay.
And there was a whole article. It was written in Danish. I got it translated though to give you guys some of this information.
Okay, and where are her parents? Where are your mom and dad?
They knew. They were not happy. So
I wouldn't be either.
Right? She said she was madly in love with him. She started talking to him in 2017. She was following the case and was just like everybody else was, and she was just like obsessed with it. The gruesomeness of it, the psychology behind it. She had to reach out to him. She felt compelled to reach out to him to hopefully get some answers. She wanted to find out more. Eventually, he wouldn't really say much about it because obviously he's like, look, they're reading everything that comes in and out of here and they listen to all our phone calls. So like, I can't tell you much, but this is what my life is like in prison. And they started talking more and more. Her family's pissed. When they're on the phone, her dad will yell out scumbag in the background. She said she's always kind of been the black sheep of the family, so she's still continued to do these like kind of out there things. Her life became consumed with writing to him all the time. She didn't even pass 10th grade because she said all I did was write to him. That's all I did was write and talk to him all the time. She said that these letters were like a way of getting her emotions and problems out there without somebody judging her. And she felt it was kind of like a hug. They told each other that they loved one another. If you go to the next, or I guess it's the last one, you can see a tattoo that she got. A letter and a spacecraft, and that's his signature on there and his words. And she wanted to do this to show his devotion to him. And then if you look at the other picture, this is a little picture that he drew her of a rocket.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. It's actually a very impressive looking rocket.
It's a pretty good drawing of a rocket. Not gonna lie.
And I really wish that I hated the drawing.
You can separate the art from the artist in the situation.
There we go. Yes.
I have a hard time with that sometimes. But for this,
I know.
Okay, go ahead, Chantel. Sorry.
Okay. So this rocket is depicting both him and Camilla in the rocket. He's in the back and he's saying, "Good steering, Camilla." And she's in the front saying, "Dude, I'm just trying my best." And underneath the rocket, it says, "This rocket is for you. The dream of building one as a sculpture in prison's name. Kind regards." And if you notice, he signed it at the top and he signed it at the bottom.
Because he's so full of himself.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, let me take you on the space version of the submarine now and murder you there.
Honestly, it does
Please
your
don't,
body steering
mind
to space.
Don't mind the saws. The saws are important for things later that I have
the-
to do. Would you like some tea
The saw
and cookies?
inside is totally fine. It's normal.
Yeah, don't. Oh yeah, we definitely need a wood saw on this spacecraft. We don't know what we're gonna meet in space.
That makes me so sad for her because he's so full of
Yeah.
himself. He'll just talk to anyone about himself. So she could be like a rock, but she obviously feels so isolated. And because he can't physically get to her, it's almost like she's using him as like a diary.
Yeah,
Like she's
and
using him.
she doesn't even go in to say like she had a bad upbringing. Like she's like, there's nothing wrong with my life. She's like, I was just always the black sheep. I was the one that always did these like outlandish things, and like that's just who I am. And so this was
It's
just
part of her
thing
identity
that I
now,
did.
maybe that she thinks she has to do more outlandish things. And her family, like I'm sure they're very stressed out, but she really needs proper therapy in this situation.
Big time.
Yes, and
I mean, like,
felt
and I just
supported,
think,
obviously.
you can go through a really, really tough childhood or a pretty easygoing childhood, but sometimes your brain just needs extra help. And you can have great parents, and the parents just can't connect with you, and you can't connect with them, and it's no one's fault. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, she feels like this is an outlet. So is this more recent? Is this in the last like
this was like
years?
she started writing to him in 2017. She
God, that's
eventually
so long ago.
found out about the marriage to Jenny, and she was devastated. But she still continued on with the relationship with him. She eventually wrote to him and said, like, "Hey, I want to make a documentary about our relationship." And this man straight up ghosted her after that. And it was 6 months before she realized what had really gone on between them, how much she had been manipulated, that this relationship wasn't good, and the best thing that could have happened to her was him ghosting her. But it was a long time. Like she was really upset with everything, obviously.
Hopefully she got some tattoo removal.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know what? It looks like that would be pretty. I know it's black ink, but that'd be pretty easy. Like there's not a lot of depth, like just a couple sessions and then that's gone.
Yeah, or cover it up or something.
Yeah.
So maybe you didn't find this in your research, but is she like out of it, doing her own thing?
Yeah, she's doing a lot better now. She was going back and taking courses from what she missed in high school, like just trying to do better with her life, basically. She burned all the letters that happened between them. The only reason why she has this was she happened to have a picture of this rocket, maybe for the tattoo. I'm not sure. But yeah, everything else has been burned.
Okay, good for her. Hopefully she did like a cleansing.
As long as he didn't have any evidence in those letters, then
I know.
Like
I said, they couldn't have
they were
because
monitored.
They're being read.
In 2022, Danish law was changed, and prisoners that were serving life sentences were no longer allowed to receive communication of any kind from people that they did not already have in their lives before their incarceration.
Okay.
Until 10 years served. Once they serve 10 years, then they can open up communication to other people.
So no more groupies.
No. He fought this, trying to sue the prison, stating it was a breach of the European Convention on Human Rights, but the convection oven. But a district court ruled this wasn't so, and that ruling just happened in November of 2023.
So weird that someone who like took away someone else's right to just live, would have the audacity to then go to court and say, I need my rights.
I need my human rights.
He's so self-absorbed and like narcissistic that like, because Kim doesn't exist as a person. He's like, no, but me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. He killed someone. We're not talking about that. We're talking about me.
And he's still allowed to talk to people. They just have to be vetted first. That's all. So they just have to like
family,
prove like, hey, or his wife, even his new, I think that his new wife, he's allowed to because they're married now. Like he has certain people that he's allowed to still talk to. In fact, I think I read somewhere too that he's still in a relationship with that female guard as well.
Okay. You can't. Okay, you can't be a guard at the jail and be like, oh, I'm dating that guy in that cell over there. Like that's not.
That should be a pretty big conflict of interest.
Yeah. Well, I think because she's not. That was when he was in jail, not prison.
Oh, so she doesn't work at the prison. She's a jail guard.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyways, because of Kim Wall's death, there were some changes to safety practices for journalists and freelancers that many news organizations adopted, reevaluating their emergency plans and risk assessments. Her friends said that they hope that her legacy empowers other female journalists. And Kim's family started a Kim Wall Memorial Fund. And this provides grants mainly for young women, but just for young journalists whose interests are shared with Kim and to help them like fund their stories. And that, my friends, is the submarine murder of Kim Wall.
Wow. That was so good, Chantal.
Kim and Dita are just
hats
two
off to
badass
Kim
women.
and Dita, especially Dita, like really advocating for Kim when she couldn't advocate for herself.
Well,
like,
exactly. Well, because like from the, like
wonder
I
if
said
they
from the
even would've
get-go,
found
she was
her.
like, no, like who is this guy? Who does he think he is?
Wow.
Who does he think he's gonna get away with this? Like she knew.
Yeah.
She every bone in Dita's body was like, no, this isn't right. Something's wrong.
I'm glad some women can see through this asshole. I'm surprised by the number that couldn't and
It
Yeah.
had
happens to
relationships
so
with
many
him
women.
after this. It's like,
I mean, but you
so
hear about that
many-
all the time, right? These people in prison and they're just like, yeah, let me go talk to them. And it's just, I mean, these people aren't. I mean, the one that married him, obviously, she got to know him and spent a lot of private time with him as well. So, and he must be some sort of manipulator. Nobody in his life knew that this was the guy that he was.
Oh my God,
he
that's
is
just
probably charismatic to people who know him.
Mm-hmm.
But-
Like I said, a lot of the people that worked with him had a really hard time with this. Actually, one guy in the Into the Deep, he was like, Peter tried to pin the films on his computer on me. Because he was like, well, you know, there's one guy that lives in the shop. So maybe he put them on the computer. And what was weird was like the day before this happened, he said Peter was asking him like, hey, do you know that website where you can like watch people die? And this guy's like, no. What are you
Dude.
talking about? And then all of a sudden all this came out and he's like, yeah. And he then tried to say it was me. And he was like, fuck this guy. Like, I did so much for him. We work for free. Like,
But
they
again,
could
right?
probably
It's not
look
about.
at
It's a selfishness thing.
if they
mhm.
wanted to investigate thoroughly, they could probably find the evidence of like who was in the office when these were.
Yeah, listen, they don't think it was this guy at all, but he's just like, you know, you put this on me now. You put this bad name on me, and it's also going to follow me around for the rest of my life that you were involved in my life and that I was involved in yours. He's like, people came to us. People came to all of us that were working with him being like, how did you not know? Like, how could you not know? Almost blaming them in a sense. And
I find that insane because, you know, hindsight's 2020 and there's so many things that in the moment, if you care about that person or have respect for them, you're going to rationalize a lot of little things because you know them, you know who they are, and they would never. And so all these little breadcrumbs, they don't add up to anything.
Yeah.
Until
even
now,
the Wood saw, right? They're like, yeah, we saw this and we thought it was a little weird, but we didn't think much of it until later when this woman got sawed up.
Imagine all of the physical evidence, but you didn't know that he was going to sex clubs or watching videos. Like that context makes it seem so much worse. But those are the darkest parts of yourself, so you don't share with anybody.
Yeah.
So when everything's laid out, you're like, oh, I can clearly see how, you know, X, Y led to Z. But
that's why serial killers come out later. It's like, oh, he was like the pillar of the community. He was the great father.
Classic.
He was
Classic.
you know, they have their persona that they portray to people they know, and then they had the dark side that they try to keep under wraps. So that seems like was probably the case with this guy.
Oh, for sure. Especially if it's like his work computers that had all this stuff. Like he was trying to hide it and keep it away from people. And everybody that worked for him seemed very respectful because there was a point where they were like, well, why haven't they come and got the computers if they really think that he did something? But like nobody's going into his office to look at anything. Like they're very respectful of where his stuff was. I know. I was like, that would not be me. I would be in the middle of the night like, what the fuck is on here? I got to tell the police.
I'd be looking for like false bottoms and drawers. I'd be looking for everything.
So yeah, it was like I said, it was really hard for a lot of these people in his life, and like you can see in the Into the Deep, and I read more about the Into the Deep. A lot of people backed out of being in the film because they were just like, I just can't, like I can't have this continually be a part of my life, and I can't even imagine, like these guys were so close to him for so long, building these rockets, doing all of this stuff, and it's just like,
They
oh,
believed in
now
him,
he's murdered this
obviously.
woman.
I
Yeah.
mean, really, in some ways, all these people are victims because they're affected by this, and I can understand too that as the outsider, a lot of us have that morbid curiosity about kind of why someone does what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a part of it, I can imagine you want to just let it go, and
Yeah.
it's really not fair to Kim, and Kim's family and friends will always have this going on in their lives. But if you can just try to move past it, I think at some point you have to just to get on with your life. It's just sad.
It
The whole
is.
thing's just sad. It was a very
It's
interesting
sad.
case. You did a great job, I think, of covering every angle.
I know. I was just like, I can't just say the bare minimum. That's why I was like, this is going to be long, but I think it's going to be worth it. So
No, that was good. And there wasn't too much science, thank God.
Oh
So
yeah,
thank you
like
for
last
that.
time. Sorry.
Like,
Let me explain Boyle's law to you real quick.
She'll bring the science in
God.
again. Don't worry. For all our
I mean, I could
science
have with the
fans.
submarine pressure, but
I know, and I know that pressure is scary,
Mhm.
but
Under pressure.
yeah, we'll save that when you want to cover like the blobfish and the Marianas
There we
Trench and
go.
stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Well, that was awesome.
Okay,
Great
well,
job,
yeah, thanks for
Chantel.
listening. No
Yeah,
problem.
awesome job. I feel super great right
I'm
now.
glad I finally
Mentally.
got
It
the
feels,
submarine murder story and from
There
one of
you
my best
go.
friends.
and now you can go watch all those shows and movies
Yes.
and
I don't
docs.
feel like I
And,
even
I
have to watch it now. I'm
suggest
like, I got
there you
the full
go.
picture, but maybe I will.
I suggest that if you want more from Dita, watch the undercurrent one. That has a lot to do with her in it, and but the Into the Deep one was cool because it just happened to be this person who was like, I want to go and make a documentary about him, and it happened to be during the time that he did this. So that was a lot of her film was actually brought into the trial as well. So that's what's kind of cool about both of them. You get like a different feeling. But I think that the end of the current one I'm going to watch next because it's got more detail.
I have something to announce. I am in love with Dita.
Oh, okay. I got worried there for a second.
No, that's not happening. unless Dita agrees.
Yeah, there we go.
And then she
Yeah,
can carry
you
her
and-
baby
yeah,
and raise
yeah.
it. But
Perfect.
okay, well, great. I'm gonna go build a submarine.
Okay.
And I'll talk to you guys a little later.
Okay. I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today. We loved having you. If you liked the episode, share with your friends, family, or anyone who would enjoy it. Also, take a minute to review the Coast Files podcast on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Leaving us a comment or like really helps. You can email us at coastfilespod@gmail.com, follow us on Instagram at coastfilespod, or visit our website at www.coastfiles.com. You can find the sources for today's episode on our website. See you next week with a new episode.